So the business model for a bank is actually very simple. It earns two forms of income. The first form of income is what we call interest income, and they earn that when they lend money to third parties, what we call advances. The second form of income is called fee income or non-interest income. And this income is generated based on fees that are charged. So for instance, if you've got a bank account, a check account, or credit card, and the bank charges you fees on that, that will be the type of fee income that that particular bank generates. So we've got our interest income and our fee income. At the same time, however, the bank incurs significant costs. So big costs relate to, for instance, interest expenses that they have to pay over to providers of capital, but they also incur significant costs such as on human resources, IT, and to maintain the significant infrastructure that banks need to run. In terms of the core financing or advances or lending model, all the bank simply does is say, we get the shareholders to provide us with a certain amount of equity capital, let's say 10 Rand. We borrow 90 Rand from third parties like depositors. So we've got a capital base of 100 Rand. We lend out the 90 Rand or significant portion of it to people who need capital. We generate interest earnings on that, pay off our costs in terms of interest expenses and other costs to run the business. And if we end up with a profit after tax of 2 Rand, we are able to say we've generated a return on equity of 20%. How did I get to the return on equity of 20%? I simply took the profit after tax of 2 Rand divided by the 10 Rand that we had invested by the shareholders as equity, and that gives us a return on equity of 20%. So it's a very different and strange business model that the banks use, which is really based fundamentally on how much money they can make based on advancing loans, but at the same time needing to manage the fact that they have to pay other people who lend it money interest on those loans, and managing their operational expenses and impairment expenses, etc., and so forth, that I'm going to go into detail a bit later on in the clips that follow.